Hey everyone, welcome back. We are back with Wonders of the First, and I've got my good friend Christopher Fisher here. Fish and I, we cut a video a couple days ago, and we unpacked kind of some hidden sentiments that are coming out in our data. And it started with asking the market how they feel about the idea of the game piece narrative. What percentage of enthusiasts in TCG, CCGs do you think are in the mindset of these are game pieces and they really should be cheap and accessible for everyone? We looked at that and saw that is a pervasive and overwhelming market sentiment. All you have to do is go to social media and you can see it. We had one of our ads go a little viral just in the last couple of days, and some of the sentiment in there, man, holy cow! Some of these people that are, I mean, literally, like they say things like, if you're a collector, you should be burned at the stake, or we should literally like kill you. I mean, I don't take that as a literal death threat. Well, I don't know. I hope maybe I should, but that's what they say. It's just these outlandish things against the idea of collecting. And then we turn around and we actually sample 15,000, CCG enthusiasts, people that are actually moving this industry along, and the actual customers. And we find that only 10% really fall into that cohort. And then you have another smaller cohort that are kind of a little softer in where they want the value to be. But then the majority of people, they want the cards to go up in value. So this idea that that the game piece army is the largest segment is just wrong. They're the loudest by far. They're the loudest. And it really reminds me, Fish, of almost what you see in politics, where you get this tribalism, right? Where
Yep.
people are just screaming at each other. And then if you get one side that is, say, winning on an issue, then you get everybody else just comes out of the woodwork, and it's like it's just crazy. And it really has gotten to the point where I know that I don't engage these people online as from a collective standpoint, and I think most collectors are just like, the heck with these guys. They just don't even engage them. So what then happens is the collector voices just aren't there. Those people speak in other ways. They speak with their wallet. They speak with their behavior, and then the game piecers speak with their keyboard, and they're very loud and vocal. I mean, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean they're very polarizing views, and they do it as an absolute. There's no give and take at all with some of the people that are so loud on social media about, hey, I want as many cards as possible, as cheap as possible, and I want them all reprinted all the time because that's all I care about. And you guys should only care about that too. And if you don't, then we need to ostracise them. We need
That's
to get
right.
rid of
That's right. They just believe that no other point of view can exist but their own. And not only that, another point of view is inherently evil. And
them.
the thing is these folks have had the market basically catered to that loud vocal minority tremendously. And they also have products. I mean, living card games. Hello, buy the whole set, play it, get the whole set next year, get it cheap. I mean, if that's really what you want, then why aren't you guys supporting that product? I'll tell you why, Fish. Because they only make up about 10% of the market.
Right.
And that's why LCGs are dwarfed by CCGs. Dwarfed. There are no LCGs that are anywhere near the size of the major CCGs. If the game piece sentiment was real, like if it was really a majority, LCGs would be flying off the shelf in every store in America because
Yeah.
they sell you the whole set. They literally give what these people say they want, and yet these products don't do well. And then we see on the CCG side, we see products that try to cater to this. They don't do so well either. You've got some thoughts that you've been putting around that whole topic, right?
Yep, I certainly do. One of the things is the limited aspect of collectability in a lot of TCGs. Another thing that's really, really important, but a lot of people get wrong, a lot of companies, really popular companies too, ones that have playability, a core group of people that buy. But what they do is they get so excited about the company that they actually overprint it to the moon. And overprinting alone is one of the big factors of why TCGs, CCGs fail.
Absolutely. And you look at some things and you could see some of it that came through the bull run era, right? Anytime now, like one of the things that people try to say online is they'll say, oh, this is the next MetaZoo because you're trying to cater to investors. Well, if you go back and look at what happened with MetaZoo, MetaZoo's initial release was very small on Kickstarter, didn't sell a ton. Then they go right into the pandemic. It catches
Yep.
a little bit of fire. They hit on some big distributing deals. Next thing you know, the product's in high demand. Those Kickstarter boxes went to like $10,000, 10 grand. I remember like when there was like when, again, a guy that's out there kind of polarizing, when Rudy sold a big MetaZoo kit, one of the things that he did is he had this outrageous top end price, and the people that paid it, he shipped them one of those Kickstarter boxes, and you were able to flip that Kickstarter box for more than the price of that whole package. And people are just like, they don't remember what was going on in those times. Like, it was wild, right, man. But there was so much free money coming. And then the people that started that game, I don't know them. I don't know what the hell they did. But if you look at it, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say they went from 0 to 1 million velocity really fast. They printed the living hell out of it. They sold as much of it as they could. And then there was no way coming out of the backside of that pandemic without an established player base, without an established real collector base. There was no way it could sustain. It was standing on a house of cards, and it absolutely collapsed. So but the idea that the cards that you don't want collectability, and trying to stand up MetaZoo as the example for that's completely foolish. It's just, you're literally cherry picking something that happened at a time in humanity that we'll probably never see again in our lives. And they were the poster child of that. But when you go back, there's plenty of CCGs that didn't have that type of catalyst, like the money printer era post COVID.
Right.
And they still failed. And a large part of why they failed was production runs.
Yep. Oh, I agree 100%. To go back to MetaZoo for a second, I just want to make a distinction, which is a lot of MetaZoo increase in prices that went to the moon quickly was a lot of speculative investing. In other words, people that actually wanted to flip it right away, make the money and go. So the prices just zoomed up, and then other people saw that, and it kind of the success grows on itself, right? It gets bigger and bigger. But when you're so high up and you don't create, this is the key, you don't create long-term value for the people and their collections and their cards within your CCG game, then there's going to be a massive drop-off, a massive one. And MetaZoo had that exact same thing. Speculation didn't work anymore, and there was no long-term value build up. So what happened?
They were MetaZoo became a cardboard shitcoin is really what it did. And again, part of it was because of the era that it landed in. Like that, it was again, it was just an absolute perfect storm. And when I see somebody say that, oh, this is going to be the next MetaZoo, it just totally misses all the points of what the catalysts were for that. It's a really uninspired take. It's really smooth brain to try to think that, because this goes so much deeper than something that is that big artificial catalyst. Like I'm not saying for 1 second that there was anything healthy around any of that era with the money printing. I mean, heck, you know, LeBron James, one of the biggest names on the planet. You want a LeBron James card? You want to buy one of those for the same price they were selling for at peak MetaZoo? You want one of those? You want some crypto assets for the same time that things were at peak MetaZoo? It was anything that basically could get speculated on during that era. I mean, even Magic the Gathering, early Magic product. I mean, ABU stuff where it peaked out during that time. All of the buyouts that happened, the guys that timed those card buyouts right before COVID, and how all that stuff ripped through. It was wild. It was a time that we'll never really see again. So let's take maybe a longer look at this, a more intellectual take to why maybe some other things have failed. Things that didn't just have this rocket fuel catalyst thrown on them that makes it really hard to look at, but things that came out. They had a good game. They had a good player base. They had nice card designs and an overall, objectively, a good product, but yet at the end they failed. Like those were the kind of examples that you were going back and looking for. Maybe tell me a little bit about what you've kind of unpacked in that as you were doing your research.
So a lot of companies that have failed, we're going to say more recent times, because again, it was a different era even before COVID happened and stuff. So we're in the post-COVID era. That's where we're at right now. So ones that have failed, they usually have a couple things in common. And this is really important. They don't fail for one reason. They fail for multiple reasons. And what I looked at were popular CCG games that then all of a sudden either died or went way downhill. And some of the most common reasons are mismanagement. So the management wasn't good at all. from the top level. Another one that was really happened a lot is delays in production. You can't have delays in productions. In other words, you promise something, you deliver on something. It's really important. And a lot of it also, all the one thing that was common between all of them was a lack of revenue, right? Simply, they couldn't get enough money to be able to then produce more sets, or they couldn't be able to get enough money to be able to hit all their distribution. And within that is the interesting part. I'd already mentioned a little bit, but overprinting, one of the most common things by far. I'm so successful, I am going to overprint because I want the money now. That's what companies did. This is usually when people actually say, enthusiasts say, hey, they're greedy. What they really kind of mean is every company has to make money. Every company has to have a profit in order to grow and to be able to get more of the product, more of the mechanics, more of the art out to the players. But when they say that they're greedy and that was their downfall, usually what it is overprinting and seeing it over and over again. MetaZoo had that problem. Another one actually that had it was Force of Will. Force of Will was really popular, and it's still sort of around, but it was really simple. They had multiple releases for a while. They got better distribution in LCSs. Players started loving it. They got a core one, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, without telling the LCSs, without telling any of the players, they overprinted it to the moon. And people found out and they weren't told. So what happened? It's really simple. Their entire long-term value of their cards and collections started going down at a steady rate. And the trust that was built up all along from Force of Will to its players just evaporated. You don't have trust, you're not going to have people buying and investing and playing.
Right. Yep. It goes back to the earlier point of the living card game, right? When you print to that level, you move this away from 90% of the market and what they want, despite what the vocal side of the market may want, because it's literally what Force of Will is doing is giving these folks what they say they want.
Yeah.
Then there's not enough of them to show up and support the product.
Right.
That's why CCGs are this beautiful creation. Originally, the original idea, as I don't know if this is legend or what, is Garfield walks in front of the waterfall and he thinks about baseball cards and the fact that you don't need everybody to have the same deck, and that's the birth of Magic the Gathering. And again, when you look at baseball cards, he came at it from that inherently collectible angle, and that's clear in his early design and what he intended, and it obviously worked. And it not only worked, it changed, it spawned an entire industry. And we see that the collectible side works, and then when you lean to the other too aggressively, it'll kill you. And overall, it's, Magic the Gathering is the only one that's really to this level that they can almost too big to fail, I guess, so to speak. So they have the leeway that they can go back and forth. But a lot of these other smaller games, if they try to follow their blueprint and say, okay, we need to print more. Oh, we're making more. Let's get the box prices down. Let's drive it down. Let's make more money right now. It ends up being the death knell, right? If Murders at Karlov doesn't do well, Magic can dump those on Amazon and move on. They can cut production runs on Fallout, drive prices back up. The market's not, the people are still going to buy the Fallout boxes, right? But if you're Force of Will, and like you said, you harm that trust, you're dead in the water. And now you become this niche game that's going to be a niche game forever because you broke that circle of trust with your collectors.
Absolutely. And there's two things I want to add to that. One is really important. You still have to have playability. We're not saying that the game mechanics, the game itself, the competitive level, the casual level, like that has to be nailed and be innovative.
Right.
And that's extremely important. So we're not saying that. What we're saying is it's not cut and dry between the two groups. The far right that doesn't play the game but just collects, and the far left, which is I just want everything as cheap as possible. The reality from our data, which is over 15,000 respondents, was, hey, I actually like playing and value my collection going up, or I value my collection going up, but I also play. And what you see is a bell curve, right? Essentially, which is the majority of people are in the middle. It's not what they want you to think, the vocal ones. So that's really important.
Yeah, no, it totally is. And that goes back to something that I did mention in that first video where I said there's this symbiotic relationship. And I think from a collectability side, folks that are, collector focused, I think they understand it because they understand that a lot of what drives their thesis of which cards are collectible is the gameplay,
Yep.
the culture, the culture of the Black Lotus, right?
Right.
Is why it's collectible. The culture of an early Chaos Orb and seeing it ripped up and thrown on the table at some Magic event that may or may
Yeah.
not have happened. Those are the stories that a collector then can gravitate to and really enjoy that as part of their thesis on why they collect. Players, on the other hand, the ones that are the game piece army players, they think that, oh, you're just making a card that I want, that I'm entitled to.
Yep.
Okay, I'm entitled to because you now own it and I should own it. That mindset for them puts them makes them say things like that collector should be burned at the stake. But in reality, that collector and all of those other collectors in that 90% are the reason that TCG CCGs are what they are and why living card games are what they are not. And that symbiotic relationship, if you're that player, your favorite game would not exist
Right.
without the evil collector. It
Yep.
would not exist. And they don't believe that. And when they spew their hate online, they don't believe it. They literally want the collectors to just go away at best, die at worst.
Yep.
And when they do, what they're left with is a base that will not support the revenue, will
Right.
not pay for the salaries in the company to create the next set. And then they either die or they pull back to such a level that the game is really, really inconsequential in the market. And you lose these things that you love and enjoy because you're so myopically focused on that value. And the reality of it is that in a set, you have these certain cards that rise in value, but there are other options, right, to play. And we believe, and again, I want to let the game team talk about these things. I don't want to get out over my skis. We've got a very talented game team, but we believe that the meta of the game can evolve to where new players can open new product and be competitive. You may not have that fire mage that was released in the first set because it's gone up in value, and you may really want that card, but you may have to form your strategy around a different type of card.
Right.
But the key to the good game design is to make that other type of card where you can come into this ice world and be competitive with the fire world and not necessarily have to have the fire. You may be a person that just loves fire. And if you are, and that card is not going to be reprinted or it's not available, then you have to kind of figure out a way to trade, barter, get your way to that card. That's part of the fun of a CCG.
Yep.
The part of the fun is the accomplishment of getting to that. But without doing a functional reprint where we just take the same card and kind of make it something different, without just power creeping it to where the fire mage is no longer powerful anymore, those are not the ways that our team is looking to do this. They have an intentional design to be able to expand the card catalog, the meta of the game to be more functional through good game design. It starts with the right mechanic in your initial setup. One other thing that they have, when Garfield first created Magic, he literally was working with nothing. He invented it from nothing, right? Our game designer has decades of experience to know what has worked and what has not worked. Where has power creep killed games? How do players respond to different things? We're not coming into this with no data to say we're not going to reprint a card, something as simple as that. We're not going to reprint cards. And I know that blows some people's minds, but the team is confident, and I'm confident in the team that they can manage that without power creep, without functional reprinting, and give us a good, robust, evolving meta of the game that people are going to really enjoy. And I am confident in that, but we have a strategy and a plan. It's not like we're just going into this willy-nilly and saying it. There's a real plan that underpins that. And the team, the design team, the game team can unpack that, and they will. That's not my place, but there is a plan. And it's like when people come at us and they say, well, you're not going to reprint cards, your game's going to suck because I'm not going to be able to get the card I want. Well, that's actually a feature, not a bug, that you can't get that, maybe can't get that card you want, but that doesn't also mean that the game is going to suck or that new players can't compete. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Let me simplify it too. So one of the things is, if there's no reprints, you got to make sure that your newer products that come out are just as good right? Your new sets, your new expansions has to be just as good power wise as the original ones that are no longer available. And so, because of our plan, because of the well thought out structure of it, and because of all the experience of people that are actually designing it, like Tinsman, we actually can make sure that a card that was in the original one that might be expensive to get now is going to be just as powerful as ones coming out in new sets. And if you want to make a theme deck, for instance, which is extremely popular, then you might have to go back and buy one of those cards on the secondary market. That's okay. It's your choice, right? So what we're creating here is your choice. You get to pick what you want to do. And our data shows us what you want to do. And that is actually to both play and have your card value go up.
Right. And then to go back to where we talked about the whole thing, we believe that this is a core tenet to what we want to do in honoring the collectability framework. I am just not a person that's going to sell you a product. And
Yeah.
look, I will say this is a bold statement, and people I understand the other side of this. I do understand it. I do believe that reprinting cards, when they sell you a card as collectible, I believe that means something.
Yeah.
When you sell me something as collectible, that means that you, this person that's selling it, is inherently telling me it's collectible. When the market then validates that collectability, and how do they validate it? They validate it with the secondary market value of that thing.
Yeah.
That is the proxy for how collectible something is. If you go out in your yard and pick up rocks, they may be collectible to you. They're not collectible to anybody else.
Exactly.
The secondary market determines collectability. The secondary market is never wrong. It's always right. It is the number, right? And you may not like it, but it's the number. And if the market then proves that a card is collectible by making it worth more, and the company looks across and says, ooh, there's $1 million of equity sitting in those 1,000 cards right there because they're $1,000 a piece. Let's print another 9,000 of them. There'll still probably be $1 million of equity in the floating around in the market. But now we're going to put that equity back in our boxes and we're going to resell it to the community. I believe that is inherently wrong. You sold me something as collectible, and then you took actions that you inherently knew were going to make it less collectible. That is what I believe, and I will not run a company that does that. Period. Full stop. And if you want a company to just inherently do that, then you could just literally block us on every social media and stop following us because you're not going to like us, because we're not going to do that. And I believe that so many of the games that have failed, again, are because they didn't honor that early collectability.
Right.
They essentially turned themselves into LCGs. And look, LCGs are fine if you have a big IP, Marvel Champs, whatever, that's fine. And I'm sure they sell enough of that to make it. But it's almost like buying Uno cards. It is what it is. It's a different product. But if that's really what you want, cheap game pieces, then it's the game for you. If you want collectability, then it's not.
Right.
And again, I think our data clearly supports that that's not what the market wants, and we're gonna try to give the market what they want, and we're gonna try to honor that collectability.
I think that's great. I think this quote. So there's a quote that I came across, and it's a YouTube streamer that's really pretty famous on TCG games in general, CCG games, and I thought it was pretty poignant, and it kind of summarizes what you've been talking about, which is people need to know that their money is both protected and respected. They need to know that from a company. And what you've talked about is not only do you know and respect that it needs to be there, you actually fundamentally from the beginning and the whole plan throughout is to protect. So I think it's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think I think there's a segment of the market that is going to appreciate this transparent take that we're taking to it. I do believe in that symbiotic relationship. I do believe that there are a lot of people that are the collector and player, and we look forward to catering to them. And those that are only a player and think these things should be just a nickel a piece, the price of the ink in the cardboard, go buy go buy a living card game or go play Uno or play chess or play any of the other things that you can do economically. You don't have to have something that has collectible in the name. You just don't. And you're not entitled to it. You're not entitled to the card, no matter what you think. Right. And that's just a fundamental belief I have. And if someone thinks that makes me evil, then I'm evil. And I'll wear that. I'll get a shirt. I'm evil. Yeah. I'll start wearing it to card shows. Evil collector. I'll wear it. Yeah. So But anyway, that was kind of the big point that I wanted to make coming out of the back of this, the importance of that symbiotic relationship. We'll get back to more of the data now, but this was last time we kind of got rambling, and I didn't want that video to carry on a lot longer, but I did want to just make that point. And then I wanted to make the point of how it really is a core influence in what we're doing. Again, you're going to hear from our game team. We're doing a big playtest event this weekend. We have people coming in to play at Firefly, it's a really nice large game store. The playtesting, we're doing it in Discord. People are playing with print and plays. We've got it on Untap In. People are playing online. I mean, the game is everyone who has brought insight back to me has told me that the game is the depth that they want. I'm way more casual, way more to casual level, but skilled players are telling me that this game has the depth, it has what they want, and it's a framework. It's a different and unique framework that allows for us to then have our mission to be sure that we expand the game in a right and responsible way.
Let me add to that.
I could not be more excited.
So I started playing Magic in 1995, which according to Alexa is 28 years ago. And also I found my original tournament card, DCI tournament card, and I started playing in tournaments in 1997. So I thought this is interesting is back then when I was in my 20s, earlier 20s, I didn't think about collectability too much, but I did because I collected baseball cards since 1979. So I thought about it, but I didn't see it inherent within Magic at the time. At the same point, Black Lotuses even back then were worth a lot of money in 1995. But I played for it. I just want to make a point that people like myself, as time goes on, the lifetime of a player, they change. Their views change. They can go from one side to the other, but most of people kind of come in the middle. So mine did too, no question about it. Now I sell some Magic cards to afford more Magic cards. And so that's how I personally do it. And I think to me and to a lot of people, this simple statement probably holds. Trading cards are collectible cards. So your trading cards are collectible cards. It's one and the same. They're combined. This is what we're talking about. They're actually symbiotic, as you were mentioning, right?
Yep.
It's really important. And I got to tell you, once I started seeing the collectible side more as I had a little bit more money, and mainly because I saw the just how good the collectability would be in the different Magic stuff way back then, man, it made me feel so much more fulfilled playing TCG, CCG games. It really did.
I think that's a core aspect of collectability that makes it something that attracts so many people because look, I like to hit a golf ball around every now and then, but every dime I spend in golf, my golf clubs depreciate every time I hit a ball with them, every ball I hit in the water, and I hit a lot of them in the water. It's a cost center for me. And my collecting hobby, which is really the only hobby I've had that's been a mainstay my whole life, is something that I can do. And I feel confident that I'm not throwing my money away, that I'm making the type of decisions because in the collectible framework, other people, and it may be when I croak, I don't wake up any day thinking what am I going to sell from my collection today? That's not the way I view it. For me, it truly is a hobby. But instead of leaving that money in the bank for my kids and to have it when I'm gone, some of it's in cardboard, right?
Yep.
And I feel that it's a responsible take that I can enjoy it as a hobby, and it's a bit of a store of value, and it ideally will even rise in value. And that's just the simple framework that I ask for in a collectible product. Give me the framework. I know the markets are going to be fickle. It doesn't mean that there's any guarantee from the company that something's going to keep value or go up in value, but don't you, the company, rug pull me. Like if it doesn't work, let's let the secondary market make that decision, not the company stealing equity, which I do believe it's theft. I know that's a hot take, but that's how I view it. It won't be theft if they just put it out and say, this is a living card game or it's a card game, and we're going to reprint everything to hell. Yeah. And here's the price of a set. Sell the sets cheaper, sell them more commensurate for what game pieces should sell for. And fine. I got no qualms. But if you're going to market it as collectible, you're going to market it as something that's special and collectible, you, the company, should uphold that. Your game design should be smart enough to protect that. And maybe we aren't able to do a set every 2 months, right? because our game design has to be more thoughtful and intentional. Maybe we are the group that we haven't really talked about that yet. Like right now, we're just worried and focused on our first set, and we know where we're going to go next. But as far as our release calendar and that sort of thing, yeah, there's some other things that we may have to adjust because our playtesting has to be more robust. We can't just know
Right.
that we're going to release this next set and okay, pull me 60, pull me 60 shock lands, throw them all in there, and we know that we don't have to deal with those because those already play, and then we work on
Right.
some new cards or what. Like it doesn't. It's going to force us to be better, and we recognize that, and that's going to cause our overhead to go up, and that's fine as long as we have that good symbiotic relationship with the
Yes.
market, and the market understands that, and we've got this contract with each other, social contract with each
Yep.
other on how we're
Exactly.
going to build together, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the bigger point.
Let me ask you this. I don't think you enjoy these, but I'm still going to ask, which is in Wonders of the First CCG game, just give us one thing that is collectible in it that you decided from the beginning to include.
Well, I mean, we when we built the world, we the whole lore, which is another whole thing to get unpacked for people that are coming in. It really is a fun and
Yeah, it
enthralling
is.
lore. It's Wonders of the First, and the First is this energy that essentially kind of spawned this entire universe, and it's actually the back of the card. And maybe we can get Tony to throw that up when we get to this section, show the back of the card, and under the logo there, that is the First,
Yep.
and it's something that we absolutely have positioned to be clearly a very collectible piece of the whole thing because it's where the world was born, and in the first set there will be cards for the First itself, that literal
Ah,
manifestation of the energy that created our whole world, that will be in the set as a card, and it will be a card that will never be reprinted.
that's
So to the
awesome.
extent that cards of the First exist, they will be in this first set. And then there's other key characters that will come out in this first set, key lore drivers and that sort of thing. So there's a lot in this first set that will be that will help establish the world, and we hope that we hope that the market will enjoy them and position them as long-term collectibles, and we're going to honor it, and then it'll be up to the market to decide how
Right.
collectible they really are.
So let me see if I can summarize that and make it a little simple, which is we're going to do the first edition coming up. There's going to be a pre-sale, and then whatever's left over, we're going to actually sell, and then we'll have more. What's it called again? The play and collect,
Collect in place.
collect in place. So, but for the collectability, 5 years from now, when we are the size of I don't know, flesh and blood, and we're really strive for it, and we have everything. We're that big. How many people are going to want to go back because they love the Wonders so much that they want to get the first edition for collectability reasons? It's going to be awesome, but everyone has a chance to get it now,
That's
which
right.
is
And again, and for those folks that come along in 5 years, I say to you, we're going to honor the promise as much in 5 years as we are in
yes,
year one. So you come in and you only have enough for a sealed booster. You don't have enough for those cards if we achieve our goals and those cards have done what we want them to do. And you can't go to the secondary market and build that deck. Find your own way.
right,
Find your own way in this world with the new product that is up to us to make sure is well designed so that you can find your lane in 5 years. That's what I say to future Wonders of the First person that doesn't get an ad this time, doesn't hear about it being at pre-sale. They miss. And that's obviously an inherent piece of this because we're not going to grab the whole market on day one. All right. That's not
right,
going to happen. So people that come later, we're going to make sure they have a lane. And then here's the big thing. If you come into a big TCG franchise today and you buy cards, buy a box, there is no thesis that any of those cards have a remote chance of becoming, even the serialized ones, have a chance of becoming what the earlier cards
yeah,
did. That you just anyone that puts stock in that, you got screws loose in your head, right? However, if they if you knew that every new set had fresh cards that then would not show back up again, every person,
right.
every set has a chance for that. And that's the simple framework that we want to put in place. It's not just about giving the first set to evil investors. That's not what this is about. It's about honoring collectability as a core piece of what we believe in for the entire life of our game.
That's great.
And the game piecers think that life will be short because they think that not reprinting cards will kill the game. And that's their take. And I have a different take, and we're going to do everything we can to prove them wrong.
That's wonderful. Really good explanation. I can't wait to see where we actually go, especially the first release. Right, it's coming up soon, and it's going to be great to hear what the community that buys into it actually says about the game, what they say about the collectability, and how we can make it better for the future. Because one thing for sure I've seen over and over is that the community helps dictate what the changes are for the better going forward.
100%. 100%. So, Fish, thanks a lot. Appreciate you being here. And we'll wrap this one up. And then probably next time we'll be back with a little bit more data from the study. This one we just wanted to unpack because we didn't have time to get through it all the first time. I think it was a really core point. We're going to kind of come off this point now and start showing you some other things. But was really thank you for watching this. And if you vibe with what we're doing, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps. Hop in our Discord, discord.gg/wondersotf. And we'd love to see you in Discord. The whole game design team is in there. I'm in there. Fish is in there. You can meet all of us. And just follow us on socials. We're on Twitter /WondersOTF. Just hop in and join the fun here.
And don't forget about the news part where we have our blogs, because that's really good for new people.
Yep. News.wondersccg.com. News.wondersccg.com. There's some really nice articles on there where we've unpacked the amount of detail that went into making our icons. Just really well done with our design team and how they did that. You can meet some of the there's some bios on some of the folks that are working on the game. There's actually an article there from Tinsman that you can read and unpack. So a lot of stuff there that's on the news.wondersccg.com. So dive in, begin to explore this wonderful world with us, and we're going to try to cook up something really good for you.
Thank you, everyone.